Egypt rejects claims of displacing Palestinians and upholds ethical foreign policy. Israel transfers the 36th Division from Lebanon to the Gaza border for deployment. And US and Russian officials meet in Saudi Arabia to advance Ukraine ceasefire talks. It's 10 a.m. Cairo local time and you're now watching Q News. We begin today's bulletin with the latest developments in Gaza. Egypt has firmly rejected any attempts to displace Palestinians from Gaza, dismissing media claims linking its stance to economic aid. In a statement by the Egyptian State Information Service, it highlighted that for over 75 years, Egypt has prioritized Palestinian rights and national security without compromise. Despite bearing economic burdens, Egypt refuses to trade its interests for incentives. The statement added that with Egypt declaring its stance unequivocally, the country upholds ethical foreign policy principles, ensuring its stance remains unwavering in defending Palestinian rights and regional stability. The Arab Islamic Ministerial Committee has convened in Cairo with the EU's High Representative for Foreign Affairs, Kaja. The committee expressed serious concern over the ceasefire breakdown in Gaza, condemning civilian casualties and the resumption of hostilities. The parties called for immediate adherence to the ceasefire agreement, humanitarian access, and the restoration of services in Gaza. They emphasized the importance of a two-state solution and the need for international support for Palestinian unity and recovery efforts. Hamas welcomed the final statement issued by the Arab Islamic Ministerial Committee, which emphasized the need to end the Israeli aggression on the Gaza Strip. Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdulati has stressed on the importance of advancing Gaza's reconstruction plan and praised the EU's support for Palestinian rights. In a press conference with the EU's High Representative for Foreign Affairs, Kaja, Abdulati called for a political framework that offers hope for an independent Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital. He emphasized that no Palestinian faction should govern Gaza. He also urged adherence to the ceasefire agreement to release all detainees and condemned Israeli military actions in Gaza, Syria, and Lebanon, advocating for international resolutions. High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Kaja, has emphasized Egypt's crucial role in Gaza ceasefire talks. At a joint press conference with Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdulati, Kalas condemned the Israeli offensive, calling for an immediate end to hostilities and humanitarian access to Gaza. She also discussed the Arab reconstruction plan for Gaza and European Union support for it. Kalas reiterated the EU's commitment to a two-state solution and highlighted concerns over Syria's escalating conflict. Egyptian Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli and his Palestinian counterpart, Mohammed Mustafa, have emphasized the necessity of maintaining the ceasefire in Gaza to facilitate early recovery and reconstruction in the enclave. Madbouli reaffirmed Egypt's unwavering support for the Palestinian people and their right to remain on their land during reconstruction. He noted that the Gaza reconstruction plan, developed by Egypt and approved at the recent Extraordinary Arab Summit in Cairo, will involve further coordination with various regional and international parties, as well as with Palestinians, to finalize its implementation details. The Israeli military has bombed the Nasser Medical Complex in Gaza's Qnews, targeting its emergency department and igniting large fires. The hospital, the sole facility serving southern Gaza, housed many patients and wounded individuals. Palestinian Health Ministry spokesman Khalil al-Dhakran confirmed the destruction of the emergency unit. Witnesses reported Israeli airstrikes hitting the second floor, causing casualties. Separately, an Israeli sniper killed a Palestinian in central Gaza's Al-Mugharraqa area. The Israeli military has confirmed targeting Hamas political bureau member Ismail Barhoum, who was receiving treatment after being critically wounded in a previous strike. Hamas announced his assassination. Medics reported that the attack hit the hospital's surgical department, causing multiple casualties amid ongoing Israeli bombardment of Gaza. That comes as 5 Palestinians were killed and others injured in an Israeli airstrike on Nasser Medical Complex in Qnews. The Israeli occupation military has decided to transfer the 36th Division from the Lebanese border to the Gaza perimeter. Spokesman Benny Aharon stated that the division had completed a long-term operation in northern Gaza and a maneuver in Lebanon. The division is now preparing for deployment in the southern command based on the situation assessment in Gaza. The 36th Division includes several maneuver units, including infantry, engineering, artillery, and air defense units. The U.S. State Department has stated that Secretary of State Marco Rubio had discussed Israel's military operations in Gaza with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu during a phone call. Rubio reaffirmed unwavering U.S. support for Israel's policies. In return, Netanyahu's office confirmed their conversation, covering the release of detainees, the resumption of fighting in Gaza, and other regional developments. This follows Israel's recent escalation in Gaza after rejecting Hamas's response to a ceasefire proposal.
This is about balancing and fairness and trade. So he wants to reset the baseline, and once that baseline is reset, then...
Netanyahu's government has voted to withhold confidence from Israel's Attorney General Gali Baharava Miara. According to the Justice Minister, as reported by the AFP, this is the first step of an unprecedented effort to dismiss her. This decision follows the recent removal of Shin Bet chief Ronen Bar, sparking widespread protests. The government seeks his removal due to her repeated opposition to decisions it deemed unlawful, accusing the judiciary of excessive influence over executive actions. Legal experts warned that this move could threaten Israel's democracy. Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir has harshly criticized former Shin Bet head Ronen Bar, accusing him of attempting a coup and undermining democracy. A report revealed that Barr ordered an investigation into the infiltration of extremist Jewish groups within the police, focusing on individuals linked to Ben Gvir. Ben Gvir called Barr a criminal and a liar, alleging he tried to overthrow elected officials. Tensions between the two escalated, leading to physical intervention by guards. Moving on to Yemen, where a U.S. airstrike on a building in the Asir neighborhood of Sana'a has left at least one person dead and 13 others injured. Emergency responders continued their search for survivors amidst the wreckage, while residents of the adjacent building attempted to salvage their belongings. The U.S. military has so far released few details about its offensive against Yemen, launched after Houthi threats to renew its attacks on Red Sea shipping over the war in Gaza. And now we move on to the latest developments in the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. U.S. and Russian officials are meeting in Saudi Arabia to advance Black Sea ceasefire talks and end the Ukraine conflict. The U.S. delegation, led by Andrew Peake and Michael Anton, met Ukrainian diplomats first. U.S. President Donald Trump, intensifying mediation efforts, recently spoke with his Ukrainian and Russian counterparts. Discussions include ceasefire terms and peacekeeping. That comes as Washington aims for a truce by April 20th, seeking de-escalation amid ongoing Russian-Ukrainian conflict. Ukrainian Defense Minister Rustem Umerov has announced the conclusion of productive talks between U.S. and Ukrainian delegations in Riyadh, focusing on key issues, including energy. Umerov emphasized that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's aim is securing lasting peace for Ukraine and Europe. The Ukrainian delegation also included key officials, and Umerov confirmed no meeting with Russian delegates in Riyadh. Zelensky called for continued pressure on Russia for a genuine ceasefire. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has stated that Ukraine's delegation in talks with the U.S. in Saudi Arabia has been as constructive as possible, highlighting the discussions as useful. The meetings are part of U.S. President Donald Trump's diplomatic efforts to end the conflict with Russia. Zelensky also expressed condolences for victims of a deadly drone attack in Kiev. Russia has reported capturing the settlement of Sribna in Donetsk and targeting multiple Ukrainian positions, including military airports, drone training facilities and warehouses. Russian air defense forces claimed to have shot down 224 Ukrainian drones. Meanwhile, Ukraine counterattacked in the Donetsk region near Toretsk, claiming that Russian forces hadn't secured the area, and Ukrainian operations in the region remain effective. Moving on to South Korea, where the Constitutional Court has ruled to reinstate Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, overturning his earlier removal. Han had been dismissed after President Yoon Suk-yeol's brief declaration of martial law in early December. 5 of the 8 judges opposed his dismissal, 1 supported it, and 2 others voted to reject the motion. This ruling comes 3 months after Han's ousting over his alleged role in the martial law declaration.
지금 우리 국민은 많은 갈등을 겪고 있습니다만 우리가 힘들게 일으켜 세운
In Canada, newly appointed Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has called a snap election for April 28th, seeking a strong mandate to address the economic challenges posed by U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs. Despite the election not being due until October, Carney aims to leverage his party's polling surge since January, following Trump's threats and former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's resignation. Carney stressed on the crisis posed by Trump's trade actions and sovereignty threats.
Our response must be to build a strong economy and a more secure Canada. President Trump claims.
And now we head to Salma Marwan in our newsroom. Salma.
Thank you, Hani. And now we move to the economic news, where we present you with the latest insights and updates all around the world. World Trade Organization Director General has sounded a cautionary note against the dangers of unproductive trade wars. He recently penned an article titled "America's Big Trade Win," in which he said the U.S. has been a clear winner in the global services trade. Compelling data employed by the World Trade Organization chief stands in stark contrast with the U.S. government's claim that other countries have taken advantage of it in global trade, a pretext that Washington has used to impose tariffs and other restrictive measures on its trade partners all around the world. British Finance Minister Rachel Reeves has stated that she's planning to reduce the administration budgets for the civil service by 15% by 2029. Reeves will likely announce belt-tightening measures to get back on track to meet her fiscal rules next Wednesday, March 26, when she delivers a half-yearly budget update speech alongside fresh economic and public finance forecasts. Reeves also said she wants to see trade barriers come down with the United States and the European Union. Australian Defence Minister Richard Marles has said Australia is unlocking $1 billion Australian dollars in defence spending. Marles said this will include a guided weapons manufacture, an AUKUS submarine base, and a frigate program. The funds are part of $10.6 billion Australian dollars for defence spending over the next 4 years, which were part of a previously announced $50 billion Australian dollars boost over a decade.
And in the federal budget, there will be an increase in
The China Development Forum 2025 has commenced in Beijing. The two-day event has brought together more than 80 senior executives and business leaders from leading multinational corporations to engage in discussions on key growth issues. Big global names like Apple, Siemens, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz are attending, with U.S. companies making up the largest group, numbering 27 in total. The participating multinationals span a wide range of industries, with finance, insurance, healthcare, and energy standing out as key sectors.
Business environment. It stimulates domestic demand, upgrades.
Chinese Premier Li Qiang has stated China will advance scientific and technological innovation to power economic growth in a keynote speech to the China Development Forum 2025 in Beijing. Addressing the opening ceremony of the two-day forum, Li said the approach to strengthening enterprises' sci-tech innovation capabilities will involve greater policy support in the form of increased investment and optimized resource allocation, an AI-focused initiative, and a dedicated national fund. The China Development Forum 2025 is taking place with the theme of unleashing development momentum for stable growth of global economy. Iraq has announced it plans to raise oil production capacity to more than 6 million barrels per day by 2029. Oil Ministry Undersecretary Bassem Mohammad Khudir has stated that Iraq aims to achieve its target through oil exploration and nationwide drilling activity, pointing to a recent deal with oil major BP opens new tab to redevelop 4 Kirkuk oil and gas fields. Iraq is the second largest producer within the OPEC Plus group and last month reaffirmed commitment to the group's output agreement. Iraq also said it would present an updated plan to compensate for any previous overproduction. Oil prices have slipped as investors assess the outlook for ceasefire talks aimed at ending the Russia-Ukraine conflict, which could lead to an increase in Russian oil to global markets. Brent crude futures were down 0.4% at $71.91 per barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude fell 0.3% to $68.08. Gold prices have fell, retreating further from record highs as reports that U.S. President Donald Trump's April 2nd tariffs will be less severe than feared. Spot gold fell 0.2% to $3,018.51 an ounce, while gold futures steadied at $3,049.30 an ounce. Spot prices hit a record high of $3,057.05 an ounce last week. And now we go back to Henny Saif in our studio.
Thank you, Selma. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our news bulletin for now, but here are the main stories we've been covering. Egypt rejects claims of displacing Palestinians and upholds ethical foreign policy. Israel transfers the 36th Division from Lebanon to the Gaza border for deployment. And US and Russian officials meet in Saudi Arabia to advance Ukraine ceasefire talks. These are all the news we have for now, but please don't forget to follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram and TikTok at QNewsEGY to stay informed. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.